There, now it worked.
There we are.
I don't know what that's all about. Okay.
Hi, everyone.
Here.
Oh, I've gum.
Customize.
Hi, I'm back.
Okay.
I can't chew gum on the podcast.
And we're live on episode. Oh, I gotta say, have the Riley's grandma watches this in Bulgaria, so and her birthday's coming up, so I have to say, Babe, чувствуй me? Честит рожден ден. Alright, така. Okay.
Oh, Selena's watching. Hi, Selena.
Hey, Selena. So welcome to episode 10 of Teriyaki T'ursday, where we talk about all things holistic kung fu and otherwise. And today we're going to talk about focusing your mind.
Focusing your mind.
Focusing your mind, which we teach that pretty much in your first lesson. You would have known that. If you would have come in for a kung fu lesson, you probably would have known. Focus your mind, we teach you.
You would have known that.
You would have known that. We teach you that in your first lesson, focus your mind. Oh, Lacey's here too.
Yeah, Selena, go on Zoom and you can ask questions or just watch quietly like you do in class.
Yeah, you can do that. If you use your class link,
yeah, if
go
you're watching,
click on it. And you...
Hi, I'm in school. Oh,
okay.
Yeah, don't do that at school. You might get in trouble.
So we're talking about focusing your mind, and it's a pretty vague topic, and there's all kinds of different ways we can approach that. So, and Miss Gibbons, I think, had a pretty good mat chat during her class last night about focusing your mind. So we're going to let her kick it off, and then we're going to go from there and what that means and how it applies to life and everything. So
sure. Okay. Well, I guess I will talk about how I teach it to students when they first start. So we teach the 4 laws of concentration, the second law being focus your mind. And I tell the students that focus means one thing at a time. So for instance, if you have a laser beam versus like a regular light that's in your room, like when you turn on a light that's in your room, it lights up everything, whereas if you have a laser beam, it only shines on one thing. So it's the same with your mind. If your mind is focused, you're basically shining your attention on only one thing at a time. And what this does, it allows you to... we for like the kids, and that if you're focused in the moment, you're gonna be able to respond quickly, right? So a student that their mind is focused, they're gonna be paying attention, so they're gonna be able to react quickly, aka listen the first time. So that's how we teach parents, right? If you get their focus first, then they listen right away. If they're distracted, they're not gonna be able to listen right away. And so how to be in the present. So we're going to talk about...
Why is it important to be in the present?
Yeah, so if you're in the past or the future, right, there's like we talked about this last night, there's kind of like this, I don't know if it's like a philosopher quote or just like a quippy thing, and this is not medically endorsed, but basically the thing is depression is when you're living in the past and anxiety is when you're using in the future. So again, that's not like a medical statement, it's just like a way to look at it. Yeah, don't come on here in the middle of school. Pay attention, kids.
Pay attention, kids. And read words.
Read words, kids. Yeah, so if you're in the future, you can't change the future too much. I mean, you can, but the way that you change the future is what you do with right now. And same with the past, you can't change the past, right? You can only learn from the past. So there is definitely a time to think about the future and reflect on the past, but your point of power is always right now.
Exactly. Yeah, your point of control is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what being in the moment is.
Yeah, recognizing that's the only thing you can change. So if you say, well, tomorrow I'm going to get up earlier, tomorrow I'm going to fold the laundry, or tomorrow I'm going to better myself, right? Tomorrow will never come, because it's always going to be tomorrow. So you got to do something.
Or someday I'll.
Someday I'll.
Someday I'll is another place that a lot of people hold on to their around to it's, and they keep thinking about someday I'll, that thing and that place. Someday I'll, meaning that I want to do that. Someday I will, after when the circumstances are right.
It's a place. Someday I'll.
Right. Yeah.
Like
exactly.
ISLE.
It's an imaginary place.
Yeah. Also,
that eventually,
if you haven't gotten around to it yet, draw a circle on a piece of paper, cut it out.
And in the middle, spell T-U-I-T, right in the middle of it. So you have a round to it. And then give it to yourself. So now you have a round to it. So now you have no more excuses. You can't say, when I get around to it, because now you have a round to it.
Yes.
Right? Who said that? It wasn't a Brian Tracy quote, I think, originally that said that. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, give yourself that. So now is the time. But the perfect circumstance you're waiting for to get started on whatever it is you want to do is not going to come around, right? You don't have to wait till someday I'll to get to it, and you don't have to wait till you get the round to it to get to it, right? You just do it now. You do what you can while you can when you can, and our black belts and all of our Kung Fu students have done a great job of it the past year, right? Because they kept on training even when
It's not ideal.
it wasn't ideal circumstances, right? But you don't wait for the ideal circumstance. Now, if there's someone that now that things open up again and we're getting into one of these new citrus color zones and we're allowed to get back into training, someone's like, oh, I'm going to start doing that again, right? Well, they're gonna once they get in it now, it's gonna be hard, but they're gonna regret all that time they didn't do it when they see classmates that just kept on going and did what they could while they could, when they could, right? They'll be like, oh, I wish I would have kept with it then. Well, but you were thinking about the future. I'll get back to it when the things are ideal, right? Now the times has passed anyway, so you got to ask yourself, what did you do with that time, right?
Yeah, and if that is you, no point in reflecting on the past. Just do it.
What can you do right now?
Yeah,
exactly.
What can you do right now? You go to class, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about Mr. Henderson's watch, right? So Mr. Henderson, if you're watching this, Mr. Henderson is our 70...
He's our senior student.
Something. I think he's 73 or 74. He lives over in Lewiston, and he's stuck over there right now. He can't come to class in person, so he comes online. He attends class more than anybody else, pretty much. And he said, I don't know if this is actually like a thing, or it's like an old man thing, but because you've seen it before on Facebook. But everything he says is like this. He said he got a watch one time, and the only thing it said on it was now. And he said that was his favorite watch because it's right all the time.
It's right all the time. Yeah. It is always now.
Always now.
You are at now.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we talked about being in the moment, right? So we had one student, Jerry, talk about how it annoys him, and I agree with this, when you go to a concert or something, or you go out on a walk and someone's just taking pictures or filming it the whole time, right? So you take a couple pictures for memories, but if you're behind the lens the whole time, it's like...
It takes you completely out of that moment.
Might as well do it virtually.
Yeah.
You're already thinking, well, I want to remember this in the future. You're not thinking about enjoying it right now, right? So maybe that's you. And we talked about kind of like a literature standpoint. So first person, when will then be now? Oh, that's confusing. I gotta think about that one. So first person, second person, third person, and then we'll talk about non-playable character energy too. So.
Okay, go ahead. So this is pretty cool. We were talking about this morning.
Yeah.
So take us through the first, second, third person.
If you remember high school English and you had to talk about like the perspectives when you're reading a book, right? So third person is when it's talking like from the outside, like Katniss and Peeta were in a cave, right? You're talking about the main characters, but from an outside perspective, right?
Third person.
Third person. And then second person is when you're reading something and it's talking about you, like you go into a hallway and you see a giant clown and then you feel scared, right? And then first person is from the first you, like it's I did this, right? So you're getting into the mind of the character, right? And how people switch those modes in their life, right? So like a lot of people are in third person, so they're outside of their mind, their body, and they feel like they're watching themselves live their life, kind of like in a video game when you're watching yourself in third person. And it's like they're talking about what they're doing, they're talking about what they're gonna do, they are thinking about what they're gonna do, they're thinking about what they're doing, but they're not actually like experiencing it, right? So maybe you relate to that.
That's a lot like Someday I'll. Like Someday I'll, you're talking about what you're going to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like you don't really. It's like you're not really embodying the character, right? And then second person is like the you thing, right? So people are caught up in what you should be doing, what someone else should be doing. So they don't focus on themselves at all. They're like, oh, they're pointing the finger outward all the time. You should be doing this, you do this, or everyone else should be doing that, right? So.
It's easy to get trapped in that too, because then there's an illusion of virtue there when you're telling people what they should be doing. It automatically makes you feel better, right? Because you're not having to reflect on what you're doing. So it's a little bit of a, I don't know, an internal scapegoat kind of.
Yeah, we're all kind of have it sometimes, especially maybe like if you have to take care of somebody else. Like I've noticed this when you feel responsible for someone else, like taking care of their needs. Like maybe if you're a mom, right, you're constantly thinking about someone else, right? This person needs that, this person needs that, and you're not thinking about you so much, right? Still needs to be done, right? And it's, again, none of these things are extremes, right? You need all of them a little bit, but and then there's first person point of view where you're using I statements, right? You're not saying, oh, we should all be doing this, or like, you should be doing that, right? You're saying about yourself, right? And you're in your own body and you're experiencing things as they're happening, right? You're not caught up in the backstory, right? Third person always has a lot of backstory. Oh, this person came from this backstory, right? And so if you hear people all the time when you're talking to them, and then, hi Lacey, right? And they are the things that happen to them. They're not, okay, are you working now? Can we hear you? Can you hear us?
She just muted.
Okay.
Yeah, yours okay, okay.
You were there for a while, but we couldn't see you. Anyway, so let me finish this rant and then see if Lacey has anything cool to say. Lacey always has something cool to say.
Keep going.
Anyway, so yeah, so you in first person, it's like you're happening now, right? And obviously the first person can reflect on the past and think about the future, but they're not there. They're not living there. You don't get sucked back into the past, and you're not so far into the future that that when you get there, you're still in the future, so you're not actually experiencing the things that you were looking forward to, right? So that was pretty much the whole spiel of what we talked about last night, and switching points of view, right, and which one you're going to find the most richness in. So we gave the example, so last Sunday we went on our Kung Fu hike, and we got there, and expect in your mind, oh, when we get to the hike it's going to be this or that, but the whole thing was like an ice rink.
Yep.
And it took twice as long, 2 hours and 15 minutes to do an hour hike. And we were slipping and sliding the whole time. My shoes were wet, right? So we could have been the whole time thinking, but in my mind, I thought it was going to be this way. I wrote the story to be this way, but the fact of the matter is it wasn't that way. So instead of trying to write the story, right, you're just living the story, right? And then it was really fun to do that.
Yeah. That doesn't, again, you made a good point that, like, you don't want extremes here. Like there's a time and a place for all of these, right? So it just reminded me of scripting. We talk a lot about scripting, right?
But you script and then you let it go.
And then you script, exactly. That's the point, is that you want to be in that third person to be scripting, to kind of like map things out.
But even when you script, you should talk as though it's present tense, right? You don't say
no, I think I write in the third.
Because everything we've ever read has said to do affirmations as though it's happening.
Oh,
right?
in the present.
Yeah.
No, but I write it in the third person though.
So you say Rob Adler?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So I write in the third person, and then when things unfold, you're experiencing them in first person.
Yeah.
Right. That's the way I learned it anyway from Lee Miltier, and I'm pretty sure she had, the way she does it is she does the same thing. It's like, written in the third person. Lee did this, Lee had that, Lee's doing this, all that kind of thing.
But you don't want to like squeeze the juice out of it too much, I think.
What do you mean?
Like, I don't know, I've felt like if you picture something one way so much, and then when it happens it's a little bit different, you find yourself maybe like too caught up with what it should have been, or what you thought it was going to be, and you maybe miss out on something that could be better.
Yeah, you limit your options because you don't know the best way to bring this about.
Yeah.
All right. So that's like the difference between like dreaming, and then goal setting, and then task setting. They're all kind of different. You don't want to get them confused, because if you're trying to if you're too task oriented, then you definitely can't. You have a hard time kind of just enjoying things as they unfold, right? You have a hard time being in the moment, because that's the same thing. It's like, well, no, it's supposed to be this way. It's supposed to be that way. But there's value to all three.
Yeah. It's not supposed to be you never do this or that.
Yeah.
It's. Only Sith.
Only Sith deal in absolutes.
Only Sith deal in absolutes.
You really could have softened that a little bit. Lace, you want to give us like a 20-second plug on your meeting tonight? Are you doing that thing tonight? Or is that next? Is it every other week?
It's tomorrow.
Oh, it's tomorrow. Okay.
What's it for? I don't know anything.
So tomorrow and
Do you want to turn her up?
I'm gonna, yeah, one sec. Hold on. Don't say it yet.
I didn't press loud enough. One
I'm gonna
sec.
make you a little bit louder, and then I want you to repeat that. Okay, go ahead.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's good.
Can you hear me okay? All right.
Yep.
So the business group is on Tuesdays and twice a month, but the wellness pods are on Wednesdays, and they're open to anybody who is already in the doTERRA community to get together and just connect. So we talk about the oils, but a little bit, but we already all know and love the oils. So what we're trying to do is get to know and love each other on different levels, like what you do, what maybe like your partner does or a friend, or last month's theme was all about self-care, and that was really awesome. Thanks so much for coming on with us on that. And then this month is actually all about our why. And I know that we in Kung Fu have talked about that. Actually, I think we talked about that on one of the podcasts, was deepening your why, your reason to be, your reason to do, until it brings you to tears, gives you that emotion. So I'm looking forward to connecting with people and hearing what inspires people, what keeps them going, and hopefully to inspire them to keep asking why and digging in deeper. How deep does your why go? Does it make you cry? If not, well, let's cry about it. Bring your Kleenex. So
If it doesn't make you cry, it's not your why.
There's a good, what is that book called?
Start with why?
No, I'll start with why, but there's another one too, that Success DNA.
Oh,
Is that in
the
here
DNA
somewhere?
of success.
Yeah, you got to read that. Check out that book, The DNA of Success. DNA of Success?
Yeah.
It's not a very long book. It's pretty cool, but it goes, start with why.
It's more about business. But it's still good.
Yeah, it's still good. It's just a little bit of a different perspective. But if you're going to read Start with Why, also pick up...
Success is an Inside Job talks about the why too.
Yeah.
By Lee Miltier.
But the DNA of Success talks about that too.
That one's good. It's got, the one thing I remember the most about that story is there was like I can't remember what the guy did. He was like rock climbing or football or something, and he then became paralyzed, and that was like his purpose for being. And then so they got to the reason why he liked playing football or whatever it is, and then he was able to like transfer that why over to something that he was still able to do, and it was like better than ever. So like this is really good stuff like that, where you think your why is pointing you to this activity, right? Because we know about like the activity. Is important, but the activity can be anything as long as it's in line with your why.
Yeah, and so once you drill down into that, you understand what your why actually is. You'll see that you have a lot of kind of elasticity and what your actual activity is you're going to be doing, whatever you're pursuing, right? So I think it was, he was a football player. He was mountain climbing, and he had an accident when he was climbing. And then he was like, well, my life is useless now because I can't play football, and that's what I was known for. And then they kind of drilled down. I was like, well, why? Like, football was the tool, but why did you like that? And it turned out that, it was because the adoration and the ability to inspire people and things like that. Well, he found other ways to do that. Without football, he needed to understand why, though. Yeah, that's it right there. You put it in the chat box. That's a good book, and it's pretty quick read. DNA of Success. Let me just double.
Yeah, it helps you. So when you're setting goals, you're not setting goals based on other people's expectations or something like that.
Yeah, or goals that don't fit your values. Because that's another problem. If you set goals that aren't fitting with your values, eventually you're going to have to make a choice, between your values and your goals when things get difficult. And if you set goals that aren't congruent with your values, you're gonna convince yourself that you failed at your goals, when really it's not that. You just chose your values instead, right?
We talked about that in class a week ago, and Amy Jones brought up a good thing. Like, she thought she couldn't do kung fu because she didn't have enough time. She had to spend more time with her family, but then doing kung fu actually gave her more time with her family. So a lot of times the things that she knew she wanted to do kung fu. She didn't even necessarily know why, but she was drawn to it. And she followed that, and then it actually was in line with her values. So it's kind of cool how that works too sometimes. When you're, not always, but if you're drawn to a specific activity, there usually is a way to still have it be within your values. That's kind of cool.
Okay.
It's a cool perspective.
Yeah, I experienced that same thing that Amy did, because why did I start doing Kung Fu? Well, because I needed a way to teach my kids discipline, focus, and respect. And you can't find a way to teach that outside of martial arts. And I've looked. Then my daughter dropped out. So then I was like, well, why am I doing this? Because she was always the reason, even though truly Max was the reason. She was doing it, so we were doing it together, and that was my why. And then she left, and I was like, this sucks. I tried to quit, and then my why came back. It was like, I didn't like the person that I was before martial arts, and that person kept trying to bleed into the present, and I'm like, I've come so far, and I'm noticing where the atrophy was starting to happen. And then I came back, and now Max is in. So I just had the most amazing moment last night. I'm like, this is the dividends of parenting. And that's a term that I got from Mr. Lawrence. Actually, he calls them the dividends of parenting. And I love this because Miss Swift said, Max, about your perseverance. And I'm like, oh, yes, because I've been working on perseverance for almost 3 years since I started. This is the thing. And leading by example as a parent, trying to teach that way. And I'm like, somebody else commented on his perseverance. I was like, yes, that means it's working. It actually works. So but that why, if you think you know it, it will probably surprise you when a circumstance comes up that maybe what you thought was your why is not truly your why.
Yeah, sometimes it does change.
You used a good word there, atrophy. I like that.
Atrophy.
That word. I like it's just it's a good word.
I don't like atrophy.
I don't like atrophy, but I like the word when you say that, because it's not to like atrophy. We usually talk about the muscles, right? Atrophy in the muscles, but
it is muscles. It's your discipline muscles.
Yeah, but with everything. So right now there's a lot of, I think, atrophy going on for everyone, right?
Social skills have atrophy. When we went on the hike, everyone's just like, what is this?
Oh.
What are people?
The social atrophy is.
Like, how do I mute myself?
Yeah, it's.
So not.
It's kind of funny. I had we did our prep cycle class on Saturday morning, and I didn't realize, because I haven't been in a live group class of people in quite a while, right?
3 months.
In 3 months. So it was great. It was a great class, but at the same time, it was like I'm like everyone's kind of just got Zoom face. They're just looking like this, and I'm talking, and I'm not getting any nods or anything, right? And I'm like, guys, is everyone understanding this okay? And I'm kind of awkward, and everyone else is kind of awkward. It's like we all forget how to human a little bit, So there's that social atrophy, part to it as well. But everything, right? There's atrophy of everything. So our muscles, our health, our activity, our mindset. I don't know what else. What else is kind of in a state of atrophy right now that you can think of?
I think our planning for the future. Because sometimes we feel like there's no point in planning for the future.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, it's just going to be another lockdown.
Well, and who knows? You don't know. You're dealing with a set of uncertainties. So it's hard for the ego as well to plan have something in mind and then something different happened. That's tough.
I mean, I don't know. I'm finding exercising. I feel like I have no choice almost but to exercise my living in the moment muscles, because
that's where you have your control. That's where your power is.
Anytime I read the news or anything, it ruins your whole day. Uh-oh.
Lacey dropped. She'll be back. Oh, mental state. So I want to talk about that. Yeah. So we're talking about focusing your mind, and a big part of focusing your mind is like being aware of what you're aware of, right? Paying attention to what you're paying attention to is another thing, right? Being mindful of what you're being mindful about. So it's not just enough to pay attention, but you have to recognize what you're paying attention to, because what you're paying attention to has a great effect over your mental state, right? And if you don't know what I mean by state, that's why we recommend, like, part of our Kung Fu homework is to write out your gratitude list in the morning, right? I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago, didn't we? Gratitude list a little bit?
Yeah, we talked about gratitude.
So the gratitude list is very simple. It's putting you in a mental state where you're just feeling better, right? But the first thing in the morning, before you let anything else affect your thinking, you write out 3, 5, 10, whatever things that you're grateful for, and that has an emotion to it. It has like a frequency to it, so you start to feel a different way.
That's scientifically proven.
Is it really?
According to me.
So according.
No, but it is. I have seen like studies on gratitude.
Yeah, stuff comes up at it, but that that changes your state, right? And it changes your frequency. I was on a call with actually Lacey and did I talk about the Napoleon Hill book in your group? Did I bring that up? Or was that someone else I was talking to?
I don't know if you did or not. What's the book title?
Well,
no, you totally talked about that book, because that was the one where then you talked about there was the secret chapters.
Exactly.
They did release, and it was all about frequency, because like the world 100 years ago was just not ready to hear about that. But you know what I've been thinking? I'm like, what if they just released the whole book as it were, what the world looked like now?
Who knows?
That explains all the witch hunts.
Okay, so Think and Grow Rich is like, it's like a self-help book for, it's like 100 years old, right? Mm-hmm. Or is it even over 100 years old?
Something like that.
But
almost 100 years old.
Yeah, but it's not like the title written for the time. It was written for like, around the era of the Great Depression. So that's why they titled it Think and Grow Rich. But really, it's a book about self-development, right, and goal setting and things like that.
Yeah, energy mastery.
And the mastermind principle, yeah. Right? Getting into groups and the ability to, when you get into a group and you put your intention behind something.
Even without those chapters, though, it's very like magic oriented almost.
Yeah, but when you see the missing, so these missing chapters just got published a couple of years ago, okay. Right? And the woman that somehow got these chapters, she published a new book. I think it's called The Lost Secret, the chapters of Think and Grow Rich or whatever, right? But the two chapters, this is kind of feels not right for this podcast anyway.
This always happens. Next time.
The two chapters are all about maintaining that frequency, right? And when you read it, it fits in perfectly with the book. So it's like, this should have been there.
That's not relevant, because maintaining a frequency is a form of mind focus.
Yes.
Because it does take a lot of focus to maintain a positive frequency.
Yeah, and you have to pay attention to what you're paying attention to, because whatever you're paying attention to will alter that frequency, yes. Putting you either in a good mood, a bad mood, bring it all in together. Thanks for wrapping that up and keeping me.
Thanks for doing that hand motion.
On topic.
Really brought us back.
Yeah, so pay attention to what you're paying attention to, and also pay attention to what you're not paying attention to. Yeah, there it is. Lost Secret, Unlocking Chapters, Napoleon. Yeah, cool.
So here's some practical exercises for paying attention to what you're not paying attention to.
Good call. Okay, give us practical exercises.
Okay, and you can find this in pretty much any like mindfulness exercise online. You can probably look one up on YouTube, but like a really easy one to do is just think about your 5 senses. Okay, so like think about what you see right now. Think about what you hear right now. Think about what you smell, what you taste, and what you feel. And not just like physically, right? But pay attention to your emotions, right? So think about right now, if you're sitting, think about how the chair feels on your legs. Or think about how your posture is, right? Like just think about what literally is happening in the present. And that is a good stepping stone to get to thinking about the present, right? Instead of thinking about another time or another place, right? So we do the I am here, I am now meditation. And if you're kind of like, what? Like, how do I do that? Well, just think about literally right here and now and stop grasping for somewhere else to be. And that's just a practice. And sometimes you're like, but I have to think about my taxes and my kids and my house payments and stuff like that.
Please don't use the T word.
Okay. The T word is hereby banned on Teriyaki T'ursday. And
it's a practice though. It gets easier with practice. So at first, being here and being now. So we take a breath in, and as you breathe in, you're saying to yourself, I am right here.
Yeah.
Right
and then
here
some
in
people are like, I can't do that, I can't meditate because then I have to deal with my thoughts. It's like, yes, your thoughts need to be dealt with now. So you just pay attention.
Your feelings have to be felt, your thoughts have to be,
And you just observe, you just say, yeah, I'm thinking about this now, and that's all you have to do.
It's pretty simple.
It's pretty simple, yes.
Simple,
Lacey.
useful.
So I actually learned and have since taught that technique is really good for managing anxiety and panic attacks. You start with 5, like pick this one sense, 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, etc. And you kind of do a countdown, but like nothing, there's nothing that is more powerful than that.
Yeah.
To bring you out of a panic attack.
Yeah.
Because it's usually either caused from, people think like it's caused from something in the moment, but not the true moment. It's more caused by circumstances, or it's like something from the past or something from the future that's triggering you in your perceived present.
Yeah, you're acting as though something's happening when it's not happening.
Yeah, but when you activate that, like, and it works for people of all ages. Yeah.
For kids. Are good at, because even kids can understand that.
Yeah.
And it is good for panic and anxiety attacks, and but just like you wouldn't drive your car without practicing, you need to practice while you're not in a panic attack too. So don't wait until you're having an anxiety attack and be like, wait, what's that meditation I'm supposed to do again? Try it now while you're calm, right? A few times, and then when you are having anxiety, it will be like, oh yeah, I've already done this before. So don't wait. Don't do the reactive affirmations.
Reactive affirmations. Oh yeah, right. We talked about that.
Yes.
It's silly. Reactive affirmations are funny. It's called lying. Yeah.
Or denial.
That's lying or denial. That's what reactive affirmations are. Yeah.
So what are some ways that you use to get in the moment, Sifu?
To get
when you find that you're caught up in pastor
music.
Music?
Yeah, music. Even if it's really, really light music to help with meditation. That's one of the easiest ways. And if I want to get, and then sometimes dance. I'll dance when no one's watching at home. There's a really good scene in if I'm like in a mood and I have to get in a more positive mood because we have to film something like this, or we have to do some kind of, we got to put some kind of live up or something, and I'm like, okay, I have to get in a more positive state. There's this scene in Men Who Stare at Goats, which is a great movie. I haven't watched Men Who Stare at Goats. Highly underrated movie.
Still haven't seen it.
You still haven't seen that?
No, because you guys quote it all the time, so I feel like I've seen it.
Such a good movie. So it's based on a lot of it is based on a true story. Like a surprising amount is based on a true story. It's pretty crazy when you watch a movie like this has got to be all BS. It's like, no, if you read the book that it's based on, a lot of it actually happened, right? But in the army, so they were doing these how do I put it? There was this special part of the army where they were trying to get into they were trying to build super soldiers, but kind of like with some funny kind of spiritual practices. And and George Clooney's in it, and he's the new private, and they're supposed to dance in this one part, right? And he's like awkwardly dancing, but he's a soldier, so he's not really like loose or anything. And Jeff Bridges, who's the commanding officer, says like, "Come on, you're supposed to dance." And then Clooney says, "Well, I can't." And then he goes, "Well, that's not true, is it? Someone once told you that you weren't supposed to." And then he had this like flashback to his childhood where his dad is yelling at him for being a weirdo.
Yep.
And then he like started to dance, and the scene was with Billy Idol's Dancing with Myself.
Oh, that's a really good scene.
It was a very, very good scene. So it was
Oh yeah, there's a good thing going around Facebook like that too about dance.
Yeah.
It's kind of like.
So I watched that clip.
Yeah.
It's only like a 10-second clip, and I'm like,
clip,
oh yeah, that's right. You got to remember to like kind of let yourself go a little bit,
Yeah.
free your mind up, right? Because if you're only in this left brain logical state all the time, you're only dealing with what is, and you don't have an intuitive, reach of what's possible, right? So being creative, it's a practice that brings that out, that activates both parts of your brain.
State shifts.
Right? Exactly. It helps you shift that state, which would get into NPC energy, our next topic. Yes, Lacey.
I'd just like to point out, I love how you separated being thinking about or feeling more like what is possible as opposed to having an expectation of the future, because those are very different things, and I think people get them confused a lot, and they cause totally different outcomes. One I think will create an outcome that we'll be happy with, which is ultimately kind of what our expectation of anything in the future is, right? We want to be happy with those things that happen, right? But when you set an expectation and it doesn't work out exactly the way you expect, well, you get disappointed, right? Which leads to other things. But when you can stay in the present, or you can be present future and be thinking about and feeling into what is possible, because oftentimes those tend to be a lot of positive. We don't, as opposed to going down the what if. I just feel like it has a different feel to it. I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
what is possible is positive, but you can still get into as opposed to the what if and then all the bad stuff that can happen. But what is possible just leaves this open, big, airy feeling for all the good stuff to come.
Yeah, it reminds me of that one kind of example where there was this is just a random example, but there's a man stranded on an island, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna pray for help." So he prays to God, "Please, God will save me, please save me." And then a boat comes, and the boat's like, "Oh, we're gonna rescue." And he's like, "No, I'm good, thanks. God's gonna rescue me." And the boat leaves.
Yeah. No,
and then a helicopter
It was
comes.
in the flood. He was flooding.
Oh.
He was on the roof of of his house, and there was a flood,
okay,
right?
yeah.
And then so God sent whatever, a helicopter, a boat, and
Something else.
And
then he dies, and then God's like, "I sent you a helicopter, a boat, and whatever." And he was like, "Oh."
Yeah. So that's a perfect example of that. The problems we have with receiving, right? We want to receive things, but it's got to be
only
this way, right? And it doesn't work.
We
that
limit
way.
ourselves to what we can receive.
Power of receiving basically is talking about that. Did I recommend that to you? Power of receiving?
Power of receiving? I don't know.
Yeah, that's
I have lots of recommendations
Me too.
from you, and I have read most of them.
I'm just throwing it out there. There's another one if you want.
Throw that
But
on the pile.
she talks about what you're talking about, and that's a different energy. What's possible, is opening you up to all these things. And when you're worried about what if this, what or that, you're basically, when I said that before, what you resist, you end up. That was a line from the book.
Yeah.
What you resist and you try to block out, you end up employing, marrying, or giving birth to.
Or working for.
Or working for. Right? Exactly. When you resist those things. What you resist persists, right? The more you fight something, the more it fights back at you. And if you just include those in the realm of possibilities, right? You're not resisting it. You're not necessarily gonna bring it about, right? But those things that we resist all the time, we end up giving them more energy, right? And they end up, kind of biting us even worse.
Yeah, that idea of surrendering and opening is another type of mind focus, right? What? Trying to-
we're dropping here, so I think
no.
we're getting too far off course.
No, I'm trying to bring it back again.
Sorry, go on.
No, it's good. It's just a different time than we usually get on.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay.
People are at school and they have.
Well, and this is we're back in red zone now, so more people are probably going back to work and everything. So anyway, go on. Sorry.
Well, so getting into that kind of state of mind, like a creative state of mind, is still a type of mind focus because you have to do it, but it's not an act of doing, it's an act of like not doing. It's doing without doing, right? That's what the sage does. Do without doing. That's what that is, I think, and it's not an easy thing. It's simple, but it's not easy. Yeah. I love to talk, so getting off topic is easy. Getting off topic is easy. That's why I'm trying to bring it back. Let's talk about NPC energy. Well, I don't think we have time for that. Yeah, we're gonna bail off in 8 minutes. But NPC energy we touched on a little bit was non-playable character. Okay, so the way I understand this is, and you got to get into some other wacky theories here, like the holographic universe theory, to think about that. We're in in this reality based on our 3 dimensions, and it has a set of rules. Okay, and that's what we can perceive. Okay, and to understand it, you gotta downgrade the dimensions here. Okay, so I don't know who I stole this from, and if you guys are watching this and you know who originally wrote this, then please share, because I don't know. I just took it from someone who took it from someone else. But imagine an ant. Okay, an ant's reality where he's walking along, and he's roaming around his little area, and he can go forward, he can go back, he can go side to side, and he gets stuff to eat, and then he takes it back to his his nest, right? The ant really only sees this dimension right here, flat ground. And I can walk this way, that way, this way, that way. And the ant doesn't really have an understanding of what up is, right? It only gets like forward, back, side to side, and that's it. But it doesn't know what's going on up here because it never really looks up, okay? Now, some ants might have like an intuitive feeling that there's something up, but they can't really describe it because it's not really in their current reality. Their ant vocabulary. It's not in their ant vocabulary. So their ant vocabulary is based on these rules, right? Is based on we can go this way, that way, this way, that way. That's it. That's what ants do. Okay. So if some ants hey guys, we can go up. They'll be like, no, we don't do that. You're being crazy, ant. Go and go off and leave our tribe because you're talking crazy talk. Because we only have this flat ground that we're going to walk on in these 4 directions, right? You can have this intuitive sense, but you can't really describe it within your current reality in your current language. Okay, this is why we have like people that are most creative and the people that really push the boundary are people that have the ability to use their left brain and right brain together. They can understand the logical rules of existence, but they also have this intuitive sense of interconnectedness that involves something that they can't really taste, see, feel, touch. Okay, now if someone like NPC energy, someone who's only living in this realm right here without any intuitive sense of something because they can't see it, taste it, touch it, right? That's what we mean by that NPC energy, where everything is just as it is mapped out, and I'm not going to get a sense of anything else that I can't see, taste, smell, touch. Said, if you have a hard time with this, just go hang out with kids. Or if you forget how to do this, is important wording there, because every one of us was able to do this at some point. Yeah, well, it's intuition, right? You listen to, you feel your intuition, which is a sense of something that you can't really describe, you can't put into a categorization with the 5 senses that we have. Yep. Right. So that's kind of what we mean by that. This is all scientifically studied, by the way. By you. I highly recommend Stealing Fire again. Please read Stealing Fire. Stealing Fire, good book. Yeah, Stealing Fire is a good book. Alternate states of mind from a very scientific point of view. It's very cool. highly recommend.
Good. Okay. Well, anyway, that was my spiel. I guess we could have we that's kind of it.
Yeah, with that we
I guess we could go into it further, but yeah, Lacey, go ahead, unmute yourself, please.
What would you like me to say now?
No, it looked like you had your hand up. You were doing like a partial hand.
No, I'm just here.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
It looked like a.
Okay. Well, I think we've weirded out the audience enough for now,
Yes.
so we're gonna leave it at that, and then.
Aw, that's too bad.
It's okay.
You know, it's only getting good when we start weirding people out, though.
Yeah, that's true. So I hope that makes you feel uncomfortable a little bit, and makes you think a little bit. Put your comments below.
Or maybe it really resonates with you.
Or if it resonates with you, you can say resonate without doing that with your hand, you know.
I can't. I hope it resonates.
Oh, hey, Miss Gibbons, how's your hand practice going?
My
Sorry to be totally off topic.
My hand practice is going well. I met a professional drummer in the park, and but it was cool. He's like produced all this music, and shout out to Fred if you're watching this for some reason.
Hi, Fred.
And but he like produces records, but he was very telling me like it's meditation for that kind of drum, right? And you just play in the moment. You don't try to plan out what you're gonna do, and you just have to, like, it's very meditative. So I've been working on that, letting go of too much technique and stuff like that. And like obviously you practice the technique, but when you go to play, you don't say, well, I'm gonna do these patterns, I'm gonna do, you know, this or that. You just go and you see kind of what happens. It's pretty cool.
Is that the upside down bowl with dents in it?
Yeah, the upside down bowl with dents in it. Can I plug one of my events?
Yeah, plug it.
I'm doing an origami seminar on March 20th.
March 20th.
2:30.
2:30.
If you want to join, you can.
What day of the week is that?
Saturday.
Saturday. Okay.
March 20th.
March 20th.
It's virtual for people at home, or if you want to come in person, you can. But there's only like 9 spots, and I think it's like already filled up. But yeah, if you want to do that.
If you want to learn origami, March 20th, 2:30.
Yeah, join your classroom link. Or if you're a rando and you want to do it, then just like leave a comment.
If you're a rando. Put a comment and be like, yeah, I want to learn origami, and we will send you the information.
Origami is very meditative, so
and you can join us for that too.
All right.
Okay, thanks for joining us. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on episode 11.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Okay, bye.